So, it's time for a 10-minute video on feminism. One of the things we did when we did feminism is we went through a whole load of stuff, but the types of questions you get on feminism in exams don't often match up very neatly to the way that we learned about feminism. We learned about the different types of feminism, we learned about the timeline of feminism, and we learned about the essentials of feminism and various feminist thinkers. But what if you got a question about how feminists viewed human nature, for example? How would that square with what you know? And you might look at your notes and say, well, that doesn't really fit. And of course it doesn't. It's not meant to fit. What you've got to do is take what you know to apply it to the question of human nature. Now, feminism isn't like socialism or conservatism or liberalism in being an all-encompassing ideology in the same way. Rather, it takes elements of all of those three major ideologies, those core views of things, and then sort of applies it to a particular aspect of human nature and human identity, which in this case is gender and sex. Now, when it comes to how feminists view human nature, therefore, there are different tracks you can take. Those feminists that believe that human society can be reformed and changed, you might call them Reformist Feminists, they would argue that human nature is a result of environment, that it's shapeable, that humans aren't born with anything in particular in their psyche that makes them humans. Rather, society creates the human, environment creates consciousness. So socialist feminists, for example, or Marxist feminists would likely argue that human nature is created by the environment you're born into. In that regard, you'd use examples of how pinkwashing toys changes people's perceptions of what it is to be one gender or another, or what femininity is in society. It's set by society. Gender is a social construct. The concept that the differences between males and females are purely biological, and those purely biological differences aren't actually that important. So you could use the scientific information about the size of the brain or the construction of the brain, or even in terms of physical constructs, in terms of body weight and musculature. There are differences, feminists would argue, but ultimately they're not enough to suggest that human nature is separate between men and women. So they're kind of your reformists and your liberal feminists. But then you get into things like radical feminism. Now, radical feminism holds to something called essentialism, that there is something fundamentally different about men and women from the moment of birth, that women automatically move towards things like group natures and working as a whole and a collective rather than working as individuals. That the idea of entrepreneurialism and individual power and greed is somehow male. That women are somehow superior in many ways to how men have shaped the world, that patriarchy itself is a problem that can be solved simply by handing power a little bit more to women, either in a balanced sense or in a overall sense. That essentialism has a different view of human nature, that human nature is set when you are born, and that you come with a whole bunch of baggage about what makes a human when you are born, and males are different to females. They would find much in common with conservatives who believe that you are born as a fallen nature. Males are more given to aggression, dominance, selfishness, individualism over collectivism, and therefore they are necessarily beyond reform. Radical feminists might even put this as far as men are the enemy. But you can also see this, and forgive me for using the term, but I can't find a better descriptive one, in trans-exclusionary radical feminists, who argue that those who would seek to change gender are therefore removing what it is to be a woman, that the definition of woman goes beyond how you present. It's not just a social construct. Rather, human nature is set at birth and immutable. Simply dressing up differently or even undergoing surgery to make huge differences makes no change. So on the one end of the scale, you've got reformists, and they believe that human nature can be changed by environment. And at the other end of the scale, you've got radical feminism and essentialists who argue that human nature is set at birth. It follows there is a spectrum, and there's multiple bits in between. There are not just two positions. So in terms of things like cyber patriarchy, for example, many feminists would argue that males are just as susceptible to being altered by patriarchal societal structures as females are, and that is part of the problem, hinting that they believe in an element, although they believe in the difference between men and women from birth, there's an element of environment shaping consciousness, and therefore human nature is not necessarily set at birth. Rather, it comes with predispositions that can be altered and changed through environment. Girls are born different to males, but environment can also shape. So when you go back to radical feminism, the other end of the scale, they also argue that society shapes what it is to be a woman. When asked about what makes a woman's experience, they tend to talk in terms of pain. They tend to talk in terms of society working against women and the struggle of being a woman, in explaining why it is that men, as they see them, cannot become women because they haven't had that lived painful experience. But not all women would define their experiences through pain, suffering, and struggle. And that in itself is interesting. So you have the two ends of the spectrum, but you'll notice that both ends of the spectrum also tend towards the middle, in that this end of the spectrum says women can be anything, men can be anything, but it also argues there is significant differences, so human nature must play a role there. And this end of the spectrum says that men and women are essentially different, but also argues that women can do most things men can. And that implies that there is no hard and fast rule about how feminists view human nature. And you can see how this could be a debate or a question in an exam. And you can also see, I hope, how although the notes don't tackle it directly, you can bring things from all over the place. So I'm just checking the time out of the corner of my eye. All over the place to make the case you want to make about how feminists see human nature. So Bell Hooks, for example, you might argue is a bit more of a believer in human nature being created by environment, that human beings are born almost tabula rasa, that is, a blank slate, a clean slate onto which society draws. Whereas you might say Kate Millett would argue more in favour of essentialism. Germaine Greer is very much an essentialist. J.K. Rowling, seriously, J.K. Rowling, sorry, that's my one and only joke, would also be an essentialist. She would also argue that human nature is set and immutable at birth, but interestingly wouldn't necessarily apply that to her own experiences. She applies it to the people who abused her as a child, which is interesting in and of itself, but she wouldn't apply it to herself. And that is the debate within feminism. So whilst there's nothing specific on human nature, you can apply what you have learnt about various feminist thinkers to the question of what human nature is. And then you can start collecting them under different headings, because as I'm sure you remember, a lot of the work we did on feminism was on the different types of feminism and how to recognise those and how to use those. And so, at the end of the day, you can then use those feminist thinkers and views, apply them to the problem of human nature, and make a debate out of it. And this goes for any other case as well. If you got a question asking about feminist views on, I don't know, freedom and equality of opportunity, you might argue that many feminists would agree with the concept of equality of opportunity. That is, setting up the opportunities for anyone within society to be whatever they want to be, but not forcing people to take those decisions. They wouldn't necessarily agree with equality of outcome. They would agree with the same equality of opportunity in many ways that liberals agree with. The freedom to fail, however, would not necessarily be part of, radical feminism. They would argue that if you choose to be female, as a female, then that's it. You don't really get another go at that one. You cannot choose your gender. As a consequence, there's a limit to equality of opportunity, whereas liberal feminists would argue differently. Difference feminists would argue similarly to the radical feminists, but they would disagree on other aspects. So although they're very, very different, they would argue the same when it came to equality of opportunity, or even, indeed, human nature. And that is what the question would be designed to do. If you get a curveball question when you're being asked about feminism, Don't be put off by it. Rather, see it as an opportunity. It is a chance for you to use what you know and apply it to a different concept. And that is a 10-minute video on feminism in revision, but not going over the facts so much as reminding you how to use what you know. And hopefully you found that useful.